equation from its graph. For the first example, it looks like this would be a sine graph because it starts at 0 and it works its way up, and then there's one complete cycle there. So it looks like the period is going to be pi because one complete cycle ends at pi. So this graph is going to be a sine graph, and the coefficient, since it goes up first, would be positive, and it goes all the way to 3. So that's going to be 3 there. And now the period, we know that the period is 2 pi over b, and the period here is pi because it starts from 0 and it ends at pi. So the period has to equal pi. So now all we have to do is solve for b. We can multiply both sides of the equation by b. And now we have 2 pi equals b pi. Divide both sides by pi. And there you go, b is equal to 2. So that would have to be 2x. That would be our final answer. For the second equation, this one looks like a cosine because at 0, it starts at the amplitude or the negative of the amplitude. Therefore, this would be a cosine graph. And it's going all the way down to -5. So that means this would have to be a -5. And then the period starts here and ends here. So the period is 2. So that means that 2 pi over b must equal to 2. Same thing as before, multiply both sides of the equation by b. Divide by 2. b equals pi. So that means b is pi x. So that would be our final answer. Let's take a look at the homework. Okay, we'll start with number 3. Number 3, so since this one starts at the top, that means that's going to be a cosine graph. Sine starts at 0, cosine starts at a. So this has to be a cosine. And because it's going all the way up to 6, that means we're going to have a 6 here in front as a coefficient. And the period is 2 pi. So the period is 2 pi. So 2 pi over b is equal to 2 pi. Multiply both sides of the equation by b. And now you can divide both sides. So we end up with 2 pi equals 2 pi b divided by 2 pi. b equals 1. So that's just going to be 1x. All right. For the next problem, this one starts at the top again. So this is also a cosine graph. So we got y equals, and it's going all the way up to 6. So 6 cosine. There's no horizontal shift, so we don't have to worry about the minus c part or plus c. We know that the period is going to be 2/5 pi. So 2 pi over b equals 2 pi over 5, because the graph starts here and it ends here. That's one complete cycle or one complete period. So now we have to solve this equation. All right, we can cancel out the 2 pi's and then basically take the reciprocal of both sides, which is b is equal to 5. So that would be 5x. That would be our final answer. This one appears to be a sine graph, but it's shifted up 1 unit. As you can see, it starts here instead of here. So this will be a sine graph, shifted up 1 unit. And because this is going all the way down to -5, it would have gone up to -6 if it hadn't been for that shift. So I'm going to call this -6 first. The coefficient in front of sine should be -6, but because you're adding 1, that's going to instead bring it down to -5 instead of -6. All right, and then there is no phase shift, horizontal shift, sorry, and the period is going from 0 to 1.5. I'm sorry, no, 0 from here to here is one complete period. That would be 2. The period is 2, sorry. So 2 pi over b must equal to 2. Then you can cancel out the 2's, and you're going to be left with the 1. And then you can take the reciprocal of both sides. So b over pi is equal to the reciprocal of 1, which is 1, multiplied by pi. You get pi. So you're going to get pi x as your b coefficient, and that should do it. All right. The last problem, this one appears to be let's see, this one does have a horizontal shift. As you can see, it should have started here, but it's starting over here. So this has got a horizontal shift of negative pi over 4. So negative c over b is equal to negative pi over 4. And then let's see what the period is. It's starting here and ending here. So this would be 3/4 pi. So 3/4 and 1/4. So this is negative 1/4 pi. This is 3/4 pi. So the period, you would take this number minus this number, which means you're adding them. So the period is going to be pi, because these two numbers, if you subtract 3/4 pi minus negative pi over 4, you get double negative, which is a positive, which is 4/4 pi, which is pi. So that is our period. 2 pi over b is pi. All right, and then we can cancel out the pi's. That's really 1. Multiplied by b, you get b equals 2. All right, so now we know that b is equal to 2. And now we can solve for c. The negatives cancel out. If you multiply both sides of the equation by negative 2, you are going to get a positive pi over 2. So c is pi over 2. All right, so now we know what b is. So our final answer should look like y equals, this is a sine graph, and it's going to, actually, let's see. Whoa, big mistake. Sorry about that, everybody. I thought this was a horizontal shift. Let's backtrack, scratch everything I just said. This is actually a vertical shift. If this were to be placed here, it would be a sine graph. So it is a shifted down 2 units, as you can see by that point. And our period is going from 0 to pi. So 0 to pi. All right, and this is sine. And it's going down first, which means we're going to have a negative coefficient. And it looks like the amplitude is 2, because from here to here, there's 2 units, so negative 2 sine. And we said b was 2 pi over b is equal to 1 period, which is pi. All right, so then if we take the reciprocal, we get b over 2 is equal to 1. Multiplied by 2, you get b equals 2. So that should do it right there, everybody. Sorry about the confusion. It looks like they reversed this term and this term, which is completely fine. You can write it either way, but that's the same thing.